one of the goals that I have for this panel is how to shorten that trip that a founder takes to find the right family office. Family offices are extraordinarily difficult to find, although as we heard from the last panel, there's a dramatic increase in the number of family offices that are interested in this space. So we hope to demystify this a little bit and to learn how to approach these fine individuals. So I'm going to ask these panelists to introduce themselves. When you introduce yourself, give us a hint as to why you're interested in this space.
So I'm Wyant. I manage venture investing for a family office based in Ohio. The family's core business is a company called Gojo Industries, which makes soap and other very mundane products that you'll see in every hospital, every airport, every school. And they also make a product that you've probably heard of that's also in these places called Purell. So as a family and as a core business, we're very focused on health and healthcare, and more broadly, at the family level, they're focused on doing well in the world, helping the world be a better place and a healthier place. And our primary source of companies has been an incubator in Netanya, Israel, that we've owned and operated for the last several years. And in that incubator, mostly what we focused on are what we would call non-invasive, technology-enabled medical devices. So we like devices that have a clear 510K path. We like technology-enabled in the sense that there's some software algorithm development. Most of those companies tend to be capital efficient, which we like. And we like working in the incubator in Israel because we get significant leverage in terms of government dollars for the Israeli government.
My name is Heighten. I'm a doctor, internal medicine and emergency medicine, and kind of backed into business in the emergency medicine business when I just joined a group of doctors and we developed an emergency medicine company that we staffed emergency departments in the Southwest. I'm in Dallas, and sold that. And then my partner and I, Carl Soderstrom, started a physician employment and management company, and over a period of about 10 or 12 years had about 500 employed physicians in 22 specialties, and then we also managed emergency medicine docs in about 25 states. We sold that company, two parts of it, in 2010 and 2012, and then had a transition with a hospital system there in Dallas called Texas Health Resources. And we decided that we wanted to make our own economy, that we didn't trust other people to invest our money, and we wanted to invest our money ourselves. And we hired J.R. Garcia, who had private equity experience, to help us find companies. And so we actually go out and seek angel investment type companies, but we're mostly interested in making money. And so within healthcare is probably about 75% of what we do, tech 25%, and we're in real estate development as well. So the things that we've done, we've formed a company called Green Park and Golf, which is I live on Golf and he lives on Green Park. It's just the streets that we live on, Green Park and Golf Ventures. And we have invested in about 35 companies, range of investment of $500,000 to 1.2 or 3 million.
My name is Alejandra at Paredones, and I'm the CEO and founder of BSI Capital Group. We're based in Mexico City. I founded the company in 2011 as an investment banking firm, but then it developed into a sort of a multi-family office platform as well, where in the last 2 years we've invested in genomics, predominantly in focusing in pre-IPO opportunities. However, this year we want to sort of expand our knowledge into more early stage investments and also diversify in the sector. So we're fairly new. We're fairly new in this in healthcare, per se, but at the same time, we're becoming first movers from Mexico, and we want to sort of set a landmark for other investment firms in Mexico to have interest in U.S.-based companies, and that they can expand as well eventually to the Latin American region. And I think that we bring that sort of a smart money idea into the companies and our investment strategy. We are a fairly new team, and but at the same time we have experience. We have experienced negotiators, and also we rely a lot on our deal flow from our legal team, and also from this conference we have found potential targets for this year. So in sum, that's what we do.
That's great. I had the pleasure of sharing lunch with you at Fenway Park during the Boston version of this conference.
Yes.
Please.
My name is Gitis. I've come from the high-tech world. I was a founder and CEO of 2 successful high-tech companies, and 3 years ago, when I sold my company, I started doing investments and found 2 other recently CEOs with recent exits in the high-tech arena, and we decided to combine our efforts and to start a 3-family office. And each of us, so we are kind of investing like clay by ourselves with the help of some professionals, and between 3 of us, we divided the investment spaces, and I'm in charge of venture investment, and they are in charge of other investments. And so we started it just 2 years ago, just a little bit over 2 years ago, and we decided to commit relatively small amount, $25 million to the Medtech space, and we decided not to invest more than $1 million in any particular company, startup company, I mean. And the way we find the deal flow, I am active in the local angel, so we are here in Silicon Valley, in Menlo Park, and I am active with local angel associations, so I chair a screening committee for the life science angels. I am on the screening committee of the band of angels, MIT angels, US angels, you name it. And it gives us a good deal flow, and we are interested in getting involved with the companies on the seed stage, not exactly family friends stage, but on the seed stage. Invest a little bit, stay with the company, help the company, and then participate in next rounds of investment.
Thank you very much. Let me ask, since everyone's probably wondering, how much of that $25 million do you have left? In other words, I'm actually going to ask everyone, are you actively looking to allocate?
We are very actively looking to allocate, because we are trying to invest relatively small amounts in the seed rounds in order to have more money for the follow-up rounds. And I am literally looking at much over 100 startups per month, and we are very actively looking to invest.
Good. And I'll invite the other panelists.
Yes, I mean, of course, we're looking for new opportunities for this year, so.
I would expect, we would expect to invest $7 to $10 million a year.
We're a little bit of an outlier. When the market was down and nobody was investing, we were actually building our portfolio.
Good for you.
Right now, we are not actively looking for companies. We're mostly managing our portfolio. However, Having said that, we will be opportunistic if something really strikes our fancy. And the other thing I do is I help the parent company, Gojo Industries, look for partners, and Gojo Purell, anyone working with pathogen detection, pathogen transmission, who's looking for strategic partners. The company is very proactive in trying to find startups who are not looking for equity capital, but are looking for co-development and licensing and development work. So we're not actively pursuing new investments, but we'll be opportunistic, and especially with those companies where there's a strategic fit with
And I'm sure you're open to referrals.
Always.
Yeah, so keep that in mind, everyone. So what type, let's spend a few minutes talking about what type of company, what is the best kind of profile for y'all to be looking at. You may start.
Okay.
What type of company should be considering a family office? And do you think it's any different than any other kind of investor that we are focusing on at this conference?
Some family offices have specific agenda, like some illness, some disease that they have special emotional dealings with. For us, we are field agnostic, space agnostic. We are investing only in devices. We do not invest in drug development. And anytime, so in terms of what company, we are looking for a strong management team that we can be comfortable working with. We are looking for strong IP. We are looking for capital efficiency. If the company will require 100 million in funding, we may not get in unless some local VCs that we cooperate with get excited with us together. So it has to be capital efficient. It has to. We are looking at relatively short-term exits. The previous panel today was talking about the exit, the lifetime of the company before exit recently increased from 5 years to 10 years. We are trying very hard to avoid these situations. We are trying very hard to invest in companies where we see clear exit within 2-3 years. If we see it within 2-3 years, it obviously never happens. Hopefully there will be an exit within 4 or 5 years.
I have found that perhaps it's a bit of an old way of thinking, but some of the entrepreneurs are thinking that family offices are going to be a little bit more patient, perhaps, and a little bit more mission-driven. My experience, they're every bit as aggressive and professional as a venture partner. I think you just...
That's how I see it.
Yeah. Others, please?
Well, we're very mission-driven as well, but we tend to be a little bit more aggressive. We like companies that, for instance, in our view, would have more of a clear exit strategy. So we feel comfortable, and at the same time that they also are thinking of maybe looking to the long term, and also looking to different markets, and not just here in the U.S. So that's something that we're looking into that.
For us, we are not, I think our mission would be to invest in value that is, that's honest and legal. I'm not interested in any gimmicks or companies that, have got some kind of shortcut to making money. But our office, in particular, doesn't have a particular cause. I have a son that's autistic. I might be more interested in an autistic product, and I may tend to invest in that, directly, as opposed to as part of my partnership, with Green Park and Golf. And I see that a lot with family offices, where, in fact, in our building, there's a family office that has daughter that has a mitochondrial disease, and he's the president of the National Association of Mitochondrial Diseases. And we had a company that came through that he showed to us that we ended up invested in. He had put $1 million in at an early stage, and it had been de-risked somewhat and was investable, and he brought it to his friends and he brought it to his family trust, which he had a fiduciary responsibility to invest for value. And so, you know, we see that a lot.
I also see individuals on a medical foundation who will step
Right,
aside,
absolutely.
and so there, it gets
Yeah.
a little.
So you go to
but
someone that.
Don't be afraid to approach them, even though you're not going to get a grant, you might get an investment.
Right, you go to an entity like the one you described that has a very solid mission, to
That's right.
invest in this, but you may be close enough to get in the door, and then they have lots of friends that have money, and they have their own, you know, investment vehicles. Frequently, they're investing, you know, to make money, and you end up getting an investment when you didn't think you would.
So I think, you know, you asked initially, how are family offices different than maybe other investors? I think what I've been seeing is there is a trend towards being more professional as investors within family offices, certainly over the 7 years that I've been involved. The due diligence we do will look very similar to one of an early stage venture fund or one of the better angel funds may be doing. So from a due diligence standpoint, you should be prepared the same way you would be prepared for any other professional investor. In our case, I think once we've gotten over that hurdle, we are much more patient with our companies. We really roll up our sleeves, we really get into them. We are willing to make bets that will take a little bit longer to come to fruition, and maybe more importantly, I think we have business model flexibility where many venture funds don't. So for example,
When you say patient, I'm hearing you're able to be with that company longer,
and
but you'll be impatient with milestones missed.
if there are,
That's a question.
If there are, so we roll up our sleeves. We don't get involved in companies unless we're actively involved.
Okay, so you see it through.
We like to be in the trenches. Every morning on my way, on my 35-minute drive, I'm calling Israel, talking to the CEOs of the company, the head of the incubator, understanding the issues. If companies are missing milestones because of things that we believe are within management's control, we have no patience. We probably have less patience.
I believe you.
We have no patience. But because we're with them, we know what's going on. If there are things in the macro world, or for example in healthcare, we start selling into one system, and all of a sudden that regional system is sold to a larger system, there are things that are out of their control. And we have much more patience with those kinds of events that are out of their control that maybe some other investors say, you missed your milestone, and good luck to you, and we'll see you when you're paying out your preferences.
I'd like to speak to when Norm was talking about 3 to 5 year exit. I think that we are not. I don't have a problem. Sort of see as I'm investing for my children or for my philanthropic kind of interest, and so a long horizon is fine. I'm really just looking for IRR over that period of time. That said, if you have a long exit, there's a lot of things going wrong. And so for me, I'm looking at the risk versus the reward equation. What's the chances it's going to fail, and if it succeeds, what's the upside? Can it be a 10x type return? And so, if you have something that you think it may be, 7 or 8 years, 10 years to get your money, and you think you're going to do an IRR, it has potential being a 30x return at the end of the time. Well, yeah, I'd look at it, but there are so many things that can go wrong in that kind of scenario that you can never anticipate. So I think you naturally shy away from things that you can't see the end point. If I was truly convinced that in 10 years, it would be there, that would be great. But my level of worry goes up a lot.
I agree.
really good insights here. Let me turn to the audience and ask y'all if you have questions for this group about the profile of what they're looking for. Yeah, when you do this, since the room is small, do you mind standing up and just kind of speaking so that everyone can hear you in the back?
Sure. Well, you added the caveat about your profile. I guess one question kind of relates to that. You know, with angel networks that syndicate together, everyone seems to know someone else, and there's kind of a recognized path to how to find the right angel. How do we find you, and do you syndicate with angels or the family offices?
That's a great question. As a matter of fact, this could take the rest of the time. But the question was, how do we find these good people? I find them at the RESI conferences. You are, I think, you mentioned you're associated with the MIT.
With the Angel Association.
Yeah. So you just
typically-
did the last series. You participated in one of the last Series A financings that came out of our center.
Right.
Of course, it came out of California, not from Boston. I'll have to,
Right.
the club in California. But I didn't know such a club existed before this company. So how do we find you? Who'd like to start?
We do not really advertise ourselves. In fact, we don't really have a website yet, and we don't know whether we will need one. So
what's this poor gentleman supposed to do if he's got a great deal for you?
It's like finding neutrinos, right?
Right. I don't know. We are getting, as I said, being involved with a number of professional angel associations, being in cooperation with leading VC offices in Silicon Valley. So we are getting enough exposure, so we do not need to advertise ourselves.
Do you ever have coffee for no reason with entrepreneurs like we're starting to do in Boston?
Very often.
If you haven't done it before, I mean, you guys have raised, money for companies and you've done it before you sort of start figuring it out. But as I see it right now, a lot of the family offices, if you're just talking about how you get to a family office, a lot of family offices are participating in angel networks. And so definitely applying to the angel networks will get you there. And sometimes it will get you there from the point of view they're just looking for something for autism. And, they get the memos every month and they see it and they pick up on it. Once you connect with one in a regional area, whether it be a family office or an angel network, then usually in that region you'll have the opportunity to get in front of investors there and through those. So for example, in Texas, there's a North Texas Angel Network, and there's a Houston Angel Network, and there's a Central Texas Angel Network, Fort Worth Angel Network, and we all share deals and can kind of see what they're investing in, and if they put all the money in, then there might not be any room for anyone else. But if you see them that way, particularly if you're raising more money, and then through those you frequently get to family offices, and through family offices you get to other family offices. I think also it depends on who you are, but for a lot of companies, I think considering an accelerator is a good idea. I know for Health Wildcatters that we had 500 folks come to pitch day in Dallas, and by our count, about 250 of those were significant investors. They were funds, they were family offices, they were individuals that you might not call family offices, and so that's a way to get there as well. Some of you are coming out of universities, or you've got a big idea, or you've already raised an A round, you're further along, and that makes no sense at all. But it kind of depends on where you're at. So it's one of those questions. It depends. How much money do you need? How much experience do you have? How many times you've done this? I would absolutely emphasize looking outside of California or in Boston.
Totally.
I don't know how many you're going to get. I think you got a much better shot at getting money in Dallas than you do is probably out of here. So you're just not, not as much competition.
I was mentioning that our last Series A financing was a genetic testing company called Paredones Genomics. MIT Angels participated, but the lead investor was discovered through the Life Science Nations database. And it's a guy who ran the Groupon office in Hong Kong who just set up a $10 million fund and just, without even advertising, just invested that $10 million. If you look at the portfolio of that company, he's invested in 3 or 4 competing companies at the same time. So you just never know where you're going to find that person.
Yeah.
Other comments on how to find you?
So I would echo that, using a network and getting introductions the same way you would want to meet VCs or other people is still the best way. Throwing things over the transom doesn't work any better with family offices if you find them than any other kind of investor. There are conferences and organizations that do focus on family office content, so places like the RESI conference, there's the Family Office Exchange, there are 2 or 3 funds that we know of that actually do outreach, work with groups of family offices. Very few family offices that I know actually have websites. We don't. I mean, if it's hard to, I met with somebody yesterday who said, I couldn't find anything about what you guys do. I said, that's deliberate. We don't want to be buried. We have enough deal flow through our networks. And the other place we sometimes get introductions are from some of our local economic development offices. So we work, so most families are in a region and have commitments to those regions, right? In Dallas, you like to help see the region benefit. And in the Midwest where we are, I think that's particularly true. So in Cleveland and Akron and Chicago and Columbus and Detroit and Indianapolis, they all have fairly strong economic development organizations that have all networked into the high net worth communities. And they're not a bad way. If you have something that would resonate with autism, they probably know that so-and-so in this family, their grandmother died of this cancer. And they are that's another way to try to identify and get introductions to potential investors in the family office space.
Although a little bit more difficult to do in the Pritzker case, it was a lawsuit that was pending for 10 years as the family kind of figured out how to. But once that lawsuit settled, boom, the office got active.
Yes, and I would like to add that I think it was one of the main topics of how do we find you guys, right? But we are, international family offices, we don't really have the access or the network, the local network, especially if you're trying to get into healthcare. So we rely, at least ourselves, from my experience, we rely on our legal. Our legal has been able to present us a lot of opportunities, so I would recommend, if you have a really good legal team, just doing, issuing the patent or other legal aspects, to really approach them, because they have a really good network from the international family perspective. I would say that, we're looking into, gather or structure of entities and syndicate with other family offices, and also this conference help us to find other potential co-investors with us. So we really follow also the trends of what is this family office doing, and we like to be more involved with our legal and kind of go hand in hand with them, because they have they've seen thousands of companies, they have done underwritings, etc. So for us, it's a really good connection in that aspect.
Thank you.
There's one other source that I might add. If you're coming out of a university, the university development offices don't like to tap into those networks for capital that would otherwise come in. However, if they know they've got a family, right?
Yes.
If they know they have a family with interest in a certain domain, to tee up opportunities that feed that family's need, further ingratiate these offices with those big donors, alumni and those other people. So if you're in a university, I would absolutely try to reach through your development people, your tech transfer people to see if they know families who have problems that your businesses are solving, because they've got a vested interest in bringing value to those people so that they can go back and ask for more dollars.
They have to educate them about the ability to give a gift and allowing them to invest equity in a university project. But I can tell you that in my case, I had to keep the gate up so that my development office was wicked jealous that Karen Pritzker was hanging out on the couch for 6 months. Other questions about how you match up with the family office or how you find them?
That means you don't lead the deals, since they're all brought to you, someone else is leading the deal and asking you to participate.
Not necessarily. Mostly we do not lead the deals, but over these past 2 years, we were the lead investors in 2 deals, both in Medtech. And one deal was actually a reject from the Life Science Angel Association, and when the CEO approached them, it was too early, and they rejected him. And he was very persistent, and he stayed in touch, and he bombarded them with updates. And I liked it, and I started digging in, and I discovered that it's a very exciting venture, and I dreamt up several family offices and several angels, and we invested, us being the lead investors.
Hi, I'm the founder and CEO. My name's Denise, and I'm the founder and CEO of a digital health company with a specific focus on women's reproductive health and maternal child health. So I have a lead investor who's very, very passionate about this space, despite the fact that he's a he and he's not a dad yet. But he invests in similar type of companies in the reproductive health space. He's not a doctor. So I'm looking for investors specifically who have the ability to give me smart money, which means help me scale through distribution deals that give me access to millions of users quickly, or partnerships that bring me either corporate partnerships in the health space or companies, whether it's device companies or other health tech companies that we can partner with to scale both revenues and distribution. So
Yes.
How do you help beyond the capital that you provide? Like you said, you work with your companies. How do you?
What does that mean?
Yeah, what does that mean?
We do the traditional coaching and mentoring. So you've got a problem, you need a sounding board, you shouldn't be living in a vacuum, you really need to be reaching outside of your little world to get some advice, maybe from people who aren't so buried in your little space but can see the broader world. So we do a lot of that. But we also, our first exit was a 2008 investment that we exited in 2013. That company, we led the Series A. We identified the Series B lead and brought them in and co-invested with them. The Series C lead was a big strategic who we ultimately sold to. We facilitated that introduction. So we're
That's
doing
helpful,
those sorts
right.
of things that you would normally think that VCs would do for you to help facilitate your networking into additional capital. In addition, as our companies are entering into distribution agreements, our family members are actively involved with us, and they've had great experience in negotiating distribution agreements on a variety of fronts, locally, worldwide, and we will act as advisors to them on deal terms. We've brought counsel that we think can help in finding those sorts of resources. And the other thing we've done is helped actually with staffing. We run people through our staffing process. We help with writing really good job descriptions, identifying what the goals really are for these people over the first year or two so that we can get people who can actually hit those critical milestones. And so we help in our family office on all of those fronts. I don't know that we're typical that way. I think we may be a little bit unusual, but I know of at least a handful of other family offices that also roll up their sleeves
Mhm.
and get into the trenches as if they were operators with your business.
The ones I know, and they're few, call all the shots, right? So there's either a great match, if there isn't a fantastic match right away, you're gonna be together for 6, 7 years, so it's really important. Denise, you impressed me as the kind of person who could actually convince someone who is thinking about a family office to focus on your area.
I'd love to do that.
So that would be my assignment to you. You had a question.
Yeah, I do. How do you look at management teams, when you say strong management teams, who also have written checks to get to that point when they come to the family offices, and significant checks to get to that point, and they come to a family office? How do you view companies that have done that, rather than just having a management that's been hired, but have actually written checks to fund their companies to get to that point? Does that make a difference?
And obviously, I view that very positively. You know, in the biblical parable, there was a story about a woman gave a penny, and a rich man gave $10 or $1,000, and that penny was more valuable as a charity than the rich man's $10,000, and I would say that's true for companies coming to me. I mean, if a guy's worked in the oil field to get through college, and has $100,000 of student loans, and writes does a brilliant PhD thesis, and has the license for a product that we really believe in, that we think has value. I mean, it ain't money, doesn't have any money. Versus a guy who's had $100 million exit. Now I'm gonna love that person because I know they've been there and done that, and I'm gonna be more interested in them for that reason. But if he's putting in $50,000, they don't mean much to me.
No.
You see what I'm saying? So I mean, it's relative. I'm not gonna penalize someone who doesn't have any money. That if they got a great idea, and they may not be, I may not think of them as, we might have to do something on the management side, somewhere along the way to help them. But if they got a good idea and it works, they don't have any money.
And also, may add to it
Please.
that the way I see it, sometime in technology-based companies, people come with intuitively, seemingly, apparently great ideas, but we don't know to what degree market needs it and who are the specific customers for this for their product. So we much prefer to see some understanding of the target industry. We much prefer to have a management team which clearly understands who are the customers, what they need, and how their product will respond to the market need. And of course, as Clay said, some experience will be very helpful.
I would like to invite each panelist in the remaining 2 minutes to spend 30 seconds on just what do you wish these folks will have learned as a result of this panel that they may not have learned or known beforehand. That would be a good takeaway for them.
Not every family office is the same. You've got single family offices are different from multifamily offices, and within those groups, they're as different as venture firms, so it's not like every family office is the same. You can't approach them all the same way. To whatever degree, you can do due diligence on the family, on their history, both in terms of where they've invested and or personal family issues. I think those sorts of things will really do you well. And if you're preparing to present to a family office, you need to prepare equally to the way you would prepare for presenting to any other professional investor. In this day and age, I think we try to do things the same, equally.
Well put. Clay?
I think that I'm just going to take a piece of it. When it comes to raising money, you really have to have humility and no embarrassment. It's like if you're at a dance and you got the guy that asks you think about asking the girl to dance for 30 minutes. You finally work up to courage to do it. You go over there and ask them, they say no, and then it takes you 2 hours to recover. Okay, a lot of you guys are like that. You work up. I'm gonna go talk to this guy. I'm gonna talk to this guy. This is gonna be it. I'm putting all my eggs in one basket. They shoot you down. Then it's 3 weeks of I don't know if I'm gonna do this anymore. I mean, really, the people that are successful raising money that I've seen, other than just having an unbelievably valuable idea, which I assume to be priced that way, is they have 4 meetings a day. They'll come to something like this. They'll talk to 12 people, and they'll have all the answers ready for 12 different points of view. I wouldn't limit myself to raising money from industry-specific people because I think it's just hard to raise money. I think you should raise money at the highest valuation you can and go on with your expertise.
Thus, our example of the founder tearing up a 6.7 and going for a 20, that took a lot of courage, particularly in a small town like Boston. Word gets around real fast.
Yes, and I think to add to the point of Leo, there's not much information about any of the family offices on the web. To really understand, or if you got a contact that connected you to a family office, try to do some homework. At the same time, presentation really matters, and how passionate you are about your company. How do you think this family office can add value to what you're doing? Because we want to see both sides of the table. How can I help you? But at the same time, what exit strategy you have for the family, or how we're gonna get value from that. So definitely do your homework and due diligence. Really study every side of the coin.
Thank you very much. You have the last word.
I agree with what has been said already, is that you just have to be persistent and knock on all the doors and don't take no for an answer, and you will be successful.
Thank you very much, everybody.